Hey everybody, John V here from PhoneArena. You knew this day was going to come, but it had to come down to it. We're doing an in-depth video comparison between the HTC Rezound and the Motorola DROID RAZR. Both devices are relatively new to the market. They both offer 4G LTE, the latest and most cutting-edge devices available right now, both sporting a $300 on-contract price. But you're probably wondering, which one's going to be the better one for you? Let's find out. So there's no question about it. The Motorola DROID RAZR has the better looking design between the two, just for the simple fact of its razor-thin construction. It's 7.1 millimeters thick. You could tell the difference in size versus the HTC Rezound, which is easily the heavier and more bulky between the two, and overall its design is pretty conventional, whereas the Motorola DROID RAZR manages to impress us with its choice of materials. It's easily the more premium feeling handset. You have the Kevlar back coating with its stainless steel core, and just a lot of stuff about it just exudes a premium handset versus the Rezound. So here's the deal. If you prize detail above all, then you definitely want to take a look at the HTC Rezound 720p display, 720 by 1080 pixels versus the QHD Super AMOLED display on the Motorola DROID RAZR. It's easily by far the more detailed of the two. To tell you the truth, you're not going to notice it too much with things like the app panel. For most of us, even like watching a 720p video, it's almost indistinguishable to tell the difference between the two, which has a superior detail quality. But you do notice it when you look at the devices up close and personal, such as the web browser here. I'll quickly show you this. You could tell with the details, such as the fine text on the with the news articles, you could clearly make out the text with the HTC Rezound versus the garbled-looking ones on the Motorola DROID RAZR. You definitely notice that aspect. But in terms of overall appeal, we still have to give it to the Motorola DROID RAZR with its Super AMOLED display for the reasoning that it just exhibits some punchy looking colors. They're both nice. Super LCD panel in the Rezound is nice, but not as vivid or high contrast versus the Motorola DROID RAZR. And on top of that, the RAZR has better viewing angles, a higher brightness output, and honestly, if you turn them both on in a room full of people, you're going to get a lot more looks with the DROID RAZR Super AMOLED display. Of course, both handsets have the usual set of capacitive Android buttons, and luckily, we didn't have any issues as far as accidental presses. Also, both handsets offer front-facing cameras. On the Rezound, it's a 2-megapixel one, as opposed to the 1.3-megapixel camera on the DROID RAZR. In terms of connectivity, both handsets offer micro USB ports for data and charging, and they both have video out. With the HTC Rezound, you need an optional MHL adapter to get it, and with the RAZR, it simply has a micro HDMI port. Even though both handsets boast 8-megapixel autofocus cameras in the rear, the Rezound has the better specs on paper just because it has a dual LED flash, backside illumination, and a wide-angle f2.2 lens. Another thing that some people might find useful is the fact that the Rezound offers a removable back cover so you could change the battery at will. You have also the micro SD card slot right there. With the Motorola DROID RAZR, the battery is not something you could remove yourself, but luckily the micro SD card slot is found on the side. Both handsets are modernized thanks to their dual-core processors. With the DROID RAZR, it features a dual-core 1.2 GHz Ti OMAP 4 processor with 1 GB RAM, as opposed to the HTC Rezound, which features a dual-core 1.5 GHz Qualcomm MSM 8660 processor, also with 1 GB RAM. Between the two, we have to hand it to the DROID RAZR in terms of overall performance, because with live wallpaper, it just seems to be more fluid with its operation. You also notice it with the app panel too. A little bit choppiness going on with the Rezound, again probably due to the graphically intensive live wallpaper, but honestly when you switch it to a static wallpaper of some sort, you see the difference in performance. It's almost night and day, significantly superior, and we'll show you that really quick here. So with the DROID RAZR, you could tell almost instantaneous as it's able to track our finger movement here with the app panel and even the home screen, so it's screamingly fast. And also with the HTC Rezound, you could tell too how it's able to track our finger significantly better with a static wallpaper, and all in all, we're happy with their performance. So here we go. As far as the experience goes, the Android 2.3 Gingerbread experience, we have to hand it to the HTC Rezound for the simple fact that Sense 3.5 is vastly superior to the latest Motorola skin running on top of Gingerbread here. There's just a far higher level of personalization offered with Sense, from all the various useful widgets to even things like the various scene modes, the themes, the skins. It's just really in-depth versus the Motorola DROID RAZR. We do like all the glitzy looking 3D effects in play with its presentation, but not quite as deep or resourceful that we find on the HTC Rezound. On top of that, you have also the lock screens, which offer you full functionality to a bunch of different applications, and overall the Sense experience goes to show why it's the best out there. Honestly, when it comes to typing long messages, both handsets deliver a satisfying experience thanks to their responsiveness and spacious layout of the keyboards. With the Sense keyboard on the Rezound, it's definitely a useful one just because we have quick access to a bunch of different characters directly from the main layout. And with the Motorola DROID RAZR, you have a bunch of different options as far as which type of input method you want to use. You have things like the stock multi-touch keyboard or the swipe one. Either way, both handsets are great in this aspect. Thanks to 4G LTE connectivity on board with both devices, it loads up our page in less than 15 seconds on the average. On top of that, both exhibit really nice navigational controls, very responsive, fluid, with things like pinch gestures, kinetic scrolling, and all that stuff. And they don't slow down with flash content. They actually do a great job. The only difference is, of course, with the Rezound 720p display, we're able to make out the fine text a lot better than what we see on the RAZR. But in any event, they both deliver a great experience. Between the two, we definitely like the music player interface found on the DROID RAZR just because it employs some 3D visual effects as you're browsing through some songs, and on top of that, it also displays the lyrics of the song that's being played. As far as the audio quality with the regular speaker, they're both going to be the same, very strong with their outputs, doesn't seem to strain at the loudest volume setting, but with the HTC Rezound, seeing that it has Beats audio, when you plug in the included iBeats headphones, you do get better, full fidelity experience with some rich tones, able to hear high and low pitches very easily versus what's offered on the DROID RAZR. So one would presume just because the Rezound has a 720p display, it's going to offer the better video watching experience. But to tell you the truth, your eyes aren't really going to tell the difference just because the video here that we're playing on both devices are an MPEG-4 720p resolution, 1080 by 720, and honestly, they both exhibit the same responsive, playback, good details. But with the DROID RAZR Super AMOLED display, it's able to impress us a little bit more with its distinctive colors, deep tones, black color, and overall it just seems like the more alluring handset to watch videos on. Again, on paper, we said that the HTC Rezound's 8-megapixel camera seems like the better one just because it offers backside illumination and a wide-angle f2.2 lens. But interestingly enough, as far as just overall quality between the two devices, they're actually going to be close to the same, impressively for the Motorola DROID RAZR. They're average at best. They're not spectacular-looking images, but they're decent for 4x6 shots. But the only thing that we don't like about both devices is that details are rather indistinct, very soft tone with their details. They do a good job both with macro shots, up close shots, but it just seems like the colors on the Motorola DROID RAZR are a little bit more washed out looking, and it's definitely more evident indoors under low lighting conditions. It just seems like it's zapped up any colors, whereas on the HTC Rezound, it's still able to lighten them up, and their LED flash does a great job in illuminating the scenery. It's really hard to say which device we prefer when it comes to shooting 1080p high definition video just because their quality is just going to be close to one another. They both shoot at 30 frames per second. Audio recording seems clear for the most part, and on top of that, details though aren't the greatest on both devices. They just seem very faint, indistinct. You don't see that much fine details with it. But besides that, it's really hard to say which one's better. They're both going to exhibit the same qualities with their results, and overall, they're average at best. Well, if you happen to love talking a lot on your phone, you'll definitely appreciate the quality exhibited by both devices just because they're identical to one another. Earpieces are very strong with their tones, and on top of that, voices are clear and distinctive. Barely any evidence of any noise or background static while we're having our phone calls, and our callers didn't have any issues as well on their end of the line. Speakerphone quality is the same. Both exhibit strong tones, but with the Rezound, it just has a very slight crackling at the loudest volume setting. Furthermore, signal strength seems to be the same on both devices. They're average at best, not the strongest, especially for GLTE connectivity. Just seems that it doesn't penetrate as good when you're indoors. It's not a problem outdoors. And for the most part, we didn't experience any drop calls during our testing. On one hand, the HTC Rezound features a 1620 mAh battery, which is definitely on the small side when it's packing 4G LTE connectivity. In contrast, the Motorola DROID RAZR is able to pack a larger 1780 mAh battery, but to tell the truth, the results are kind of similar to one another. In fact, we're able to get 10 hours of normal usage on both devices, but the DROID RAZR has a little bit more juice left in its tank, so it's able to edge out the Rezound just by a little bit. Nothing substantial, and to tell the truth, battery life still not spectacular in both handsets, and it's easily in line to what we've seen already with other 4G LTE smartphones. It's rather difficult to say which is the superior device between the two, just because they both have their own unique perks and strengths that make them such beloved handsets. But if we had to pick, seeing that they're both $300 with a 2-year contract, we definitely have to say the Motorola DROID RAZR. It just packs a lot of features for the money, and on top of that, it really will attract anyone out there with its fantastic construction. It definitely sets the benchmark in this area. It's a top-notch quality handset, and for the price you're paying, it easily exhibits, that pricey handset that you're paying for with its design construction. On top of that, you have a Super AMOLED display, which is a lot more vivid looking than the HTC Rezound. It's not to say the Rezound isn't bad. It does offer the 720p display, which is definitely the most detailed on the market. And on top of that, it beats audio support, so if you're big into music, definitely want to probably think about that. But in the end, it's just the RAZR that really has that initial appeal right off the bat. And of course, it's backed up by its performance, battery life, calling quality, 4G LTE connectivity, and Motorola's web top functionality. There's just a long listing that is available with this handset, and in the end, it definitely is going to be the device to beat. So if you'd like to learn more about the HTC Rezound or the Motorola DROID RAZR, you can check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching, guys.